Welcome to Make Possible Bitesize, a weekly podcast brought to you by Permutive, championing change in publishing, advertising and beyond. Each episode, we chat to an inspiring guest about their careers, their lives and how they're making change possible. Let's bite right in.
Hello everyone and a Happy New Year. I'm Richard Reeves, Managing Director of the Association of Online Publishers. Welcome to Make Possible Bitesize, a podcast series in which inspiring people share how they are championing change and making a real difference in their field. In the month of January 2021, the AOP is partnering with Permutive to provide some fresh perspectives from our industry friends and publisher community. We asked three thought-provoking questions of our guests, and we'll get answers to you in less than 10 minutes. Today on the show, I'm joined by Charlie Brookes, Director of Revenue UK at Bauer Media. Hi, Charlie.
Hello, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us for this episode. As you know, I invited you on to talk to the wider community around the new ground you're breaking with Octave. So probably best place to start would be a quick intro into who you are and what Octave is.
Yeah, well, like you say, I'm the Director of Revenues at Bauer, but I'm here on time today to talk to you about Octave. So maybe I'll try and give you a succinct answer if I've only got 10 minutes. Effectively, it's a partnership between News UK and Bauer. It brings together all of our digital audio inventory into one place. So that's Magic, Virgin, Absolute Radio, TalkSport, etc. KISS, as well as our podcast inventory. Therefore, the publishing brands are in that state too. But probably what makes it unique is that it then benefits from the first-party data that's created from our publishing division. So whether that's the content or the context, as well as our logged-in users and some sentiment analysis as well, we bring all that into a single DMP instance for Octave across News and Bauer. So that means you can effectively target specific audiences at scale while they're listening to audio content. That's, those who don't know, desktop, mobile and smart speakers. So to give you a live example, somebody who's been to Parker's or the Sunday Times driving section or car website, it becomes an auto intender. They're listening to an ad on KISS or TalkSport, and we can target them with an autos ad and just allows for that specific ad context.
Yeah, it kind of all seems so obvious, but the reality is it's not been possible before. So new ground. Thank you for that. So let's kick off with the first sort of Make Possible question. Not a tricky one, hopefully. But what are you most proud of so far in terms of what you've achieved at Octave?
Yeah, I'm going to give three answers, if I may. The first one is that the setup of it, a joint venture between two big media companies, like News UK and Bauer, could have been very tricky, and it wasn't. The spirit of collaboration from the very top of the business, the senior stakeholders, right to those who are doing the doing, has been great from the off. That really was quite encouraging, and I'd like to shout out my colleague in crime, Deepan Ravalia, who works at News, who's made that possible. I think then the second thing would be the fact that we have, as you said, created something quite interesting that publishers have been doing for a while, taking their first-party data and creating segments. But then to do that with the audio spin and to do it at scale was really nice to innovate and be part of something that genuinely moves the market forward. And I guess the third one is probably something that we hadn't planned for, which was that COVID hit us. Just as we were about to bring the teams together and get this thing on the road, we had to bring a bunch of people from News and a bunch of people from Bauer who'd never met each other together, form a virtual team from home offices, and then launch the product. So we've been running without any face-to-face visits. Every pitch has been made like we're doing now over a conference call, which is an interesting observation. Definitely wouldn't plan it that way, but it has worked. And again, a huge shout out to the wider market community who listened to us, adapted and allowed us to share that information. But having achieved what we've achieved with that as a backdrop, I think it's probably something that'll stick with me for a while.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, no doubt breaking new ground anyway, but on top of that, with all the challenges that we've been facing this year, and you know, obviously, I've worked within publishing and running a trade body for the publishing community. I don't underestimate the task in just simply getting two massive organisations to look through the same lens. I think it's a fantastic achievement. So I'm going to move on to our second question. So obviously it's challenging given COVID, as you say, but what are you actually focusing on today in terms of how you move in these circumstances onward and upward with Octave?
Yeah, we kind of, because there's so much going on, Deepan and I try very hard to think about the things that will really move the needle. And they are four things that we keep coming back to: the data, which is the quality and quantity of it. The importance of first party data, I suspect, will only grow in 2021 as rules and legislation and death of cookie conversations continue to evolve. So we spend a lot of time thinking about the quality and quantity of our data. The technology drives so many unique opportunities. I'll just talk about the creative ones, but obviously you can do things with this medium that you can't do with digital on websites, but you can't do in broadcast, linear broadcast either. So it offers new opportunities to dynamic insertion, the use of voice, location, weather, even the device you're on. A mobile device behaves differently from a desktop. So all of these things allow you to do quite interesting and unique things with your ad creative. So technology is really important. Probably the biggest one that the customers would talk about is measurement. In digital audio, it's quite still a relatively nascent space. And obviously what its position is in the media mix, how you measure it, and the performance is really, really interesting. We've done a few very early tests and that auto-intender segment that I talked to you about, when we did a campaign for an advertiser and put half of it just generic and half of it on the first party data, and then saw how many people then went to that customer's website. It was 6 times higher. So again, not news to you and I that first party data actually works, but it's nice to have it validated. six times better performance. So it's more of that, but also not trying to fall into the trap of digital being just seen as a direct response. It must drive an action. So you can brand build with this medium really, really well. And also, because you know you're targeting an audience, you can be quite clever with the messaging that you position, because it's not you're not just targeting a lot of wastage as well. So measurement's going to be key. And then the final one, I think, is that point about growing the market. It is relatively nascent, and I think being part of two big parents, I think Octave has an opportunity to help grow that market alongside some incumbents that are in that space, and start moving the medium forward and making people understand that it is different from the use of MPUs and banners and skies, etc. It has its own role to play in the digital ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, measurement is a vital part of the accountability in any transaction, but it's the creative piece that excites me. Before, there were limitations around audio and voice advertising because of, some of the things you've set out, and the ability now in this marketplace online, what we're seeing, the most successful relationships being built with consumers are based around the ability to cut through and provide something engaging in terms of that initial messaging. So, I get that that's a very potent part of this proposition. So, thanks for sort of outlining it. I'm sorry that the time is sort of so limited, but that's what these are. They're bite sizes. We could talk for ages, but the final question today is what ultimately has been, and I know it can sound a bit cheesy, but what has been the sort of guiding light or philosophy in terms of making things possible, where in relation to what you're achieving and we're discussing here?
Yeah, I guess there've been two. There's been that sort of, like I said, the collaboration, the trust, and the iterative approach in the setup. That was really, really, I think we've done a good job, Deepan and I, of being a digital business. Being entrepreneurial is a word we talk about all the time. That ability to set up, we're only 12 people set up and doing something quick and nimble, but with a corporate parents. That's been really, really important. And then I guess it's the proposition. Has to be about trust and transparency. We bring high quality brands and real transparency to where their data is coming from. I think that's really important that we accentuate that. It's what agencies and customers want, and bringing that to market and being as transparent as we can. We're really open with people about what's happening, what their post-campaign analysis looks like, where things were played out and why they were played out the way they played out. So offering that service and super serving people from the off has been something that I guess we were always meant to do it, but it's really worked well in COVID, where being nimble and fleet of foot and has been key, I guess, to succeeding. So those two things were probably what's guided us.
No, perfect. Thank you. Well, that's a great way to end there, actually, Charlie, with that message. And thank you very much for being a part of today's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yes, very much so. It's always difficult when you ask Charlie Brookes to be concise, but I hope I've done my best.
No, it's perfect, and I think we managed to nip this in before the next incoming phone call for you. So, awesome, Charlie. Thank you very much, and that just simply leaves me to say thank you to all listeners and viewers for tuning into the special episode of Make Possible Bite Size. AOP is back in the next week with another inspiring guest talking about what they do to champion change, think in exciting ways, and make a difference. So that's a goodbye from me, and
goodbye from me for those who
Indeed. Thank you very much, Charlie. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Bye.